Welcome to my end of the year top 10 best games of 2016 list, which I've decided to make for some reason. Yeah, I think we can all agree 2016 was a pretty bad year in general, and as for gaming, it could have been better. There were some masterpieces, but there were also some absolute monstrosities. Seriously, there were a few games this year which I absolutely hated. But there are also a couple of games which I think will go down in history as some of the greatest games ever made. So, this is my top 10 games of the year list, 2016. Before we start, you know the drill by now, this is my opinion, nothing stopping you from liking or disliking the games I'm going to mention, blah blah blah. Anyway, let's start with some honourable mentions, and just for fun I'm also going to throw in some dishonourable mentions into there. So the first honourable mention is the Dead Rising remake, which released on PS4, PC, and I think Xbox One? But the reason it's on the list is because it's a HD remake, and it was only just a slapdash standard HD remake. But I appreciate the fact that they brought it back, and they brought it to PC and PS4. It's a game that I think a few people wanted to see. I do wish they added a bit more to the game though, because this has aged quite a bit now. But Dead Rising 1 and 2 have always been games I've enjoyed. Can't say the same about 3, and I haven't even tried 4, but hey, 1 and 2 are pretty good. Pac-Man Championship Edition 2, it's good, very good, but I barely put more than a few hours in. It's just not my type of game, but if it is your type of game, you will probably love it. It's not the deepest game in the world, it's not the most replayable, but if you want something that's just a bit of silly fun to play for a few minutes, there you go. Firewatch. I enjoyed my time with it, quite a lot actually, but the ending almost ruined it and made everything feel like a waste of time. Which was a bit of a shame because up to that point I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was really good. Oxenfree. It was also good, very telltale-ish, and it had some interesting and clever moments. And I also beat the game in one sitting. It was fun while it lasted, but I can't say I've ever cared to, or probably ever will, care to replay it. Mind you, I was playing this while I was waiting for XCOM 2 to launch, but hey. Hitman 2016. I haven't had a chance to properly play this yet. But from what I've played, it looks like Hitman is back to how it was in the Blood Money days after Absolution completely ruined everything. And, well, we don't talk about Absolution. Final Fantasy 15, same problem really. I haven't put enough time into it to really give it a proper place on this list. Although I did put at least 6 hours into this one, but as it is an RPG, that's not really a lot. That's about 10%. And while it took me a bit of time to get into it, and while it seems to be nowhere near the level of Witcher 3 in terms of RPG and combat, it is still a solid game that I will definitely play more of. I'm not getting rid of it yet. Finally, I haven't played Planet Coaster yet, mainly because I'm scared I won't have the time for it. Well, either that, or it'll end up taking all of my time up. And Last Guardian I haven't played yet, because I'm getting it a few days as a birthday present. And also, despite how much I loved Shadow of the Colossus, platformers aren't normally my thing, so we will see how that goes. Now some dishonourable mentions. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan. Platinum, what are you doing? Why are you releasing Spectacle Fighters at 30 FPS on PC and PS4? With really bad missions and story after Transformers Devastation came along and proved to us that not all licensed games sucked. What are you doing? I hope this sucked because efforts are being focused on the new Nier game, because I played the demo for that and that was really good, so the rest of the game better be good as well. Otherwise, people are going to start falling out with you. Far Cry Primal. How boring was this one? Bloody hell, that was a waste of £30. I can't believe I spent money on this game. Thank God trading in games is still a thing after Microsoft tried and failed to put a stop to it with the Xbox One. Never did I think a game would bore me in 5 minutes flat, but apparently it's possible. Dishonored 2, The release for this game was absolutely disgusting, even for a Bethesda game. The PC version had serious performance problems, so much so it almost completely put me off PC gaming. The PS4 version wasn't good either. That one had frame rate issues as well, a problem with input lag, which I believe was also on PC, and the field of view was so narrow, it made me feel sick. And it's the first game that's ever made me feel sick because of the field of view. This was going to be on the list instead of another game, but the thing is, this other game, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, didn't suck on PS4, so I managed to have somewhat of a good time with it. We will get to that game later. And finally, screw everything about No Man's Sky. Thank God I did not buy into the hype and pre-order this game. Honestly, I didn't even like it at all when I first played it, and thank God I was not aboard the hype train, because I would have ended up pre-ordering this game, and there you go, my money would have been gone. I did end up buying it on Steam just to see what it was like, and I think I refunded it in about 30 minutes. It didn't beat Far Cry Primal, which lost me in 5 minutes. This one lost me in 30. Also, performance issues on all platforms. What a surprise. Ugh. I'm tired of games having really bad performance. I just don't think it's acceptable in 2016 to release games like that. Right, enough from the honourable mentions. Let's talk about the good stuff. Number 10. Attack on Titan: Wings of Freedom. 2016 was the year I actually finally got into anime, where 1 year ago I didn't even give a crap about it, and people tried constantly to get me into it and failed, but this year I finally got into it, and I am glad I did. There are some anime universes out there which cannot be compared to any other films, games, or TV series, etc. out there, which is partly why I stuck with it. Attack on Titan, you could say, is one of those. It is an interesting twist on the zombie apocalypse formula. Instead of zombies, it's a series of fairly stupid giants that can be slain if you slice the back of the neck, and also have quick regeneration powers and eat people for fun. Yeah. Now, the game was made by Koei Tecmo, and they've never really made anything groundbreaking before. But the reason that this is on the list is because this game is incredibly faithful to the anime, and also it's about as efficient as a Attack on Titan game can get. I personally cannot imagine another way that this could have been executed. Now, it is a little short, it gets a little repetitive and boring towards the end of the game, and also it's expensive for what it is, but if you ever somehow find this game cheap, it's definitely worth picking up if you're an Attack on Titan fan. But then again, if you are, you probably already own this. Number 9 goes to Mafia III. I am being far too nice to this game by putting it on this list. But at the end of the day, I bought this game on release because I judged the game by the first 30 minutes that I watched on YouTube, and because I really liked Mafia 2. And despite the game having some graphical issues, bugs, and an extreme problem with repetition, so much so it can completely ruin the game for you, despite the fact I don't own the game anymore because I traded it in, I still look fondly upon it. If you can find this game cheap, and you want something with a really good story despite the repetition, and has your standard shooting, driving, stealth, and also is a game set in the 1960s New Orleans kind of swampy area, then this is the game for you. Also, the soundtrack is absolutely incredible, really well chosen. It's nice to have a game to be able to show to my parents as a result of this, because of this lovely music. It's nice to be able to show them the game and be like, do you know this song? And they'd be like, oh yeah, I do know this song. I used to listen to this all the time as a kid, etc. It does lose mark for having a bad PC version. I couldn't run this game on my fairly mid-range computer at 1080p at all. 720p low did not work on this game. And honestly, the repetitive nature of this game should not be encouraged, which is why I reluctantly put this game on this list, and why I'm saying I'm far too nice to this game. If you took that out of the game, it would have been a lot better, but the game would have also been very short. And also, if you want to know whether this game answers some of the questions that Mafia 2 left, the answer is yes, but not in a way you would expect. Play the game to find out. Number 8. Superhot. I first heard about this game when it got teased at E3 2015. They showed a little video at some point. I then went out and played the prototype, which is an online flash version of the game, and I watched some gameplay of the beta, and I was blown away. When it came out, it did not disappoint either. It was a shooter where time moves very slowly. They say time doesn't move when you stand still, but that's not the case. It's actually moving very slowly, unless you are moving yourself, whether that being the camera, whether that being your character, you're jumping, whatever. At which point the game would be real time, which means you are basically controlling a real life Matrix. The game, whilst being a little short, it can be beaten in about 2 to 3 hours if you only play the main game. It's very enjoyable, can be extremely challenging, and there's a lot of replayability in terms of challenges, in terms of extra difficulties, etc. So, if you're worried about value for money, you do still have it. And if you want to take up speedrunning, this would also be a perfect game for it, because this game will challenge you. As long as you don't mind a bit of repetition. Also, without talking about the story too much, it is really clever. It's about a game people are playing, which is manipulating people to thinking it's the best game ever. The clever thing is the game actually is really good. So it really gives you something to think about, like, wow, this game's manipulating everyone saying it's really good, but the game actually is really good. So am I being manipulated, or... yeah, it was genius. I thought it was really well done and surprised me. It is also the most innovative shooter I have played in years. You know, for some reason, most of the reviews I have read or watched actually say this line, that being on Steam or just on the internet. I have no idea why. It's such a weird coincidence, but it's by no means false. If you want to see what all the fuss is about, you should check this game out.
Super hot, super hot, super hot, super hot.
Number 7 goes to Inside. 2 things you need to know. I don't like platformers, nor was I a huge fan of Limbo, but Inside was absolutely amazing. It was creepy, it was challenging, but it always felt fair and logical. There was nothing that confused me for an hour, before I looked the answer up online and found it was something completely illogical that I never would have got, which the Silent Hill games seem to be a big fan of doing. But this game just rocked, and some of the puzzles were just genius. It's a very simple platformer. All you do is jump, move left and right and up if you're climbing a ladder or something, and you've also got a button for grabbing and moving things. That's it. It's very simple, yet somehow it's very clever and very well made. The ending was about as weird and cryptic as an episode of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, and it's not exactly the most comfortable, happy or exhilarating game you'll ever play, but if you are ever bored on a rainy day, this will keep you busy for an enjoyable 6 hours or so. You can pretty much get it anywhere, and it also runs beautifully on PC. Number 6 is going to XCOM 2. XCOM Enemy Unknown is the only strategy game I have ever completed. Mainly because I suck at these kind of games. I suck at the learning curve, I suck at maintaining and progressing at the game as the game gets harder, and also I suck at giving these games the time of day because they are huge time consumers, and it's even worse when some strategy games are permadeath, which means your hours worth of gameplay could go down the loo. Even more frustrating if it's because of a tactic or something you did at the start of the game. But anyway, XCOM Enemy Unknown was the only strategy game I ever beat, and it's one of the only games that I was able to just pick up and play without looking too much online on how to play the game. Until this game came out, XCOM 2 completely amps up everything XCOM 1 did, and improves everything. The scale is much better, the graphics are better, the motivation is better, the customization is much better, the weapons were much more enjoyable to play with, and overall it's just a more enjoyable experience. And when that clock starts ticking down, those who've played the game know what I'm talking about. When that clock starts ticking down, the game gets extremely exciting and tense, because any screw up could completely ruin the whole game for you. And thankfully, the game doesn't make the original game obsolete as well, because it does something a bit different to the first game. The first game has a different objective, I guess you could say. So they are both worth owning alongside each other. Bonus points to this game for being able to run on my laptop somehow, albeit on the lowest settings with a subpar frame rate. But hey, it works on my laptop, so I can play this game away from home. So, XCOM 2, number 6. Number 5 is Uncharted 4. Holy crap, this game was brilliant. This game completely exceeded my expectations. Honestly, I would say this is a better game than Uncharted 2, which everyone can agree was the best game in the trilogy up to this point. The formula for the Uncharted games has been absolutely perfected. The set pieces were great, the story was interesting, the characters were all fun, the graphics were absolutely jaw-dropping. This actually felt like an adventure. It was less linear than the other games, and overall it just felt a lot more epic scale. Even if it felt like the treasure they were going for wasn't as exciting as a lost city or a statue made of gold. Also, the action set pieces were so well done. They weren't just cutscenes, they all felt dynamic and realistic, like your actions actually meant something and triggered things to occur during the set pieces. Instead of it feeling like you're watching people play out a set piece on a film, it actually felt like you were part of it, and that you, even though you ultimately weren't involved, no matter what you did, the same events would play out. Dynamic events and conversations in games are some of the best, and also it shows that the developers actually put a lot of effort into their games, because I would imagine there would be a lot to code here. Uncharted 4 is brilliant, keep it up Naughty Dog. I'm looking forward to that Uncharted spin-off that you are releasing some point next year. Number 4. Ryuga Gotoku Kiwami. Chances are you haven't heard of this game. That would be because this game isn't even out yet in the West, and this is currently a Japan only game. I had to import it. Very few words in this game are actually in English. Ryuga Gotoku is more known as Yakuza over here, and by saying that I'm probably ringing at least a couple of bells somewhere. For those who don't know, Yakuza is a JRPG mixed with a brawler, and the very best way to describe said brawling would be a mix of both bullying with some hints of the combat from Witcher 3. There are a lot of games in the franchise which release annually, and unlike most yearly franchises, where there's the odd one where the rule actually seems to be make the game suck, and occasionally you get a really good one, but most of the time yearly franchises suck because the greedy corporations forget they're supposed to be making enjoyable products. Every game in the Yakuza series, except from one which I will mention shortly, is absolutely brilliant. They are all fun, they all have interesting storylines, they are all relevant to the overall storyline and are all worth playing. They all have good characters and locations, and they are all long, filler-free, enjoyable products which the developers actually cared to make as enjoyable products. There are a lot of games in this series: Yakuza 1, Yakuza 2, Yakuza Kenzan, which is a 1600 Japan spin-off, Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4, Yakuza Dead Souls, which is the one that actually isn't that great and is the one that I would not count when I say they are all amazing, Yakuza 5, which is download only and we had to wait 3 years for it, Yakuza Ishin, which is set in the 1800s and is another spin-off, and we also did not get this one releasing over here, Yakuza 0, which is a prequel, Yakuza Kiwami, which is a remake of the first game, 2 PSP games, and Yakuza 6, which is also not out yet. They are all flawed games, and the early games in the series are very janky, but they are designed to be damn fun games. Because they are incredibly Japanese, they don't sell well here, and Sega do not rush to localize them. The one I am talking about is Yakuza Kiwami, which is the first ever game I got imported from Japan. Surprisingly, it's not actually too expensive and didn't actually take that long for a Japanese import. It was about the same price as any game that released this year and only took about 2 weeks to get here. It is a remake of Yakuza 1, but not in the Last of Us remastered way where they just changed the frame rate and resolution. No, no, no! They completely rebuilt the game from the ground up, as well as changed and rebalanced the combat and the missions to make the experience as optimal as possible. And it is brilliant. How the game is even 1080p 60 frames on the PS4, it looks amazing! The developer team is also really low budget, and they're making games like this. Just so you all know, Yakuza Kiwami is releasing in the West, supposedly in July. Yakuza 0 releases in January, which is a prequel to the first game, and we also have Yakuza 6 releasing in early 2018 supposedly. When they release, get them! Also, if you have a PS3 and or a PS2, go out and buy the other games. I would advise you watch the video by Hyperbit Hero, which I will link in the description, which is a retrospective of most of the games in the series, and you will learn much more about this beautiful series. Sorry that I went on a bit with this game, but this all had to be said because this is the best under the radar franchise you will ever play. Number 3 is Stardew Valley. Holy crap, the number of hours I spent on this game. The minute I started playing this game, I was hooked. Firstly, the game will grab you with its upbeat charm, beautiful soundtrack, and relatively happy mood. And then when you start to get the hang of what you are doing, you best clear your schedule for that week and make sure you cancel any events you have planned for that week. Hell, you might even want to take a few days off from whatever it is you are doing. Because this game is the most addictive game I have ever played in my entire life. I lost so many hours playing this game, and I didn't even eat, sleep, visit anyone, watch or play anything else while I was playing this. And when I first played it, 1 hour ended up being the rest of the night and the next few days after that. This game just has so much charm around it. Nothing is locked off from you at the start. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, and there are so many secrets and so many things to do. Think of it like this. Imagine if Animal Crossing did not have any real-time elements, so you could just keep going and going and going and going and going. That's what this is. It is a non-real-time Animal Crossing that's available on the PC. The game also runs beautifully on any machine I've put it on. Even my old 1 GHz dual-core netbook ran this game perfectly. I am not kidding. To make things even more impressive, this was the effort of one single person. He made thousands on the game, and honestly, he deserves every penny of it. Get this game. It's also available on Mac. It will run on any modern PC. And I hear it's coming out on consoles as well. You have no excuse now. Clear your schedule for a week and get this game. I don't care if you are the most cynical game ever that only plays first-person shooters on the hardest difficulty with the controller upside down. You really should play this game. And I can say that because it heavily contrasts to my number 2 pick. Number 2 is Dark Souls 3. Everyone who knows me in real life knows I love the Soulsborne games. Every single one of them. Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, yes, even Dark Souls 2. Bloodborne, even though that one was evil. And now, Dark Souls 3. And while this one does not beat Dark Souls 1 by any means, it is still the second best in the series. This one has the best combat, not quite as fast as Bloodborne, but is still really good. This one also has the most well-balanced difficulty with the easiest levels and bosses, while being cake for veterans are challenging enough for the newcomers, yet the hardest levels and bosses give the veterans something to remember. It also wasn't over the top on difficulty like Bloodborne was. Fun fact about Bloodborne, they actually advertised that one as being the best for newbies to get with easier difficulty. Nope, that was a lie. They said that to trick people. Bloodborne is the hardest. Thankfully, Dark Souls 3 is is a lot more noob friendly, even though as a Souls veteran it is quite hard for me to judge how well this game would feel to a new player. 3 also has the best graphics, and thank God the PC version was actually good, especially compared to the off-putting state that 1 was on PC, and especially compared to other PC games that released nowadays. My criticism with this game is that the levels just aren't as good as Dark Souls 1. And the combat is only better because it's slightly faster. I wouldn't necessarily say it's tighter or more enjoyable otherwise. And also, 1 also wins by being the game that dragged me into this series. I don't expect any of the Soulsborne game in the future, if they make any more, to beat this one, and I don't think I ever will. Dark Souls 3 certainly had its moments, and I managed to beat the first boss in the game on my first attempt, and there was a boss later in the game which honestly is my favourite boss in the entire series, which I even managed to defeat at the beginning of a new Game Plus playthrough, meaning I was a good few levels behind what I really should have been at that point to fight it. Not as good as defeating it without leveling up once and without using any weapons, but hey, I'm not someone who likes the idea of having to fight a giant monster for 10 minutes with the health of a tank and 1 hit can kill you. Which is kind of why I like these games, because you never really have that unless you are heavily underpowered to be fighting a certain enemy. This is the game I played the most in the year, and the game I wanted to like the most. But no, it is not number 1, because I found something that I enjoyed even more, and one that I would honestly have a much easier time recommending to people than this one. So here we are, number 1. Some of you already know what this is by the soundtrack that I've been using in the video. Some of you are probably wondering what the hell has topped Dark Souls 3, the second best Soulsborne game out there. Some of you just want me to shut up and say what it is without all the drama. But a game released this year, I was expecting to be good. I was not expecting it to be one of my favourite games ever made. I enjoyed every moment of it. It will go down as a classic to me. It felt like it was made for me, and I will forever support it. So what is this game, you are asking? Unless you've worked it out already, that is. Without a doubt, my number 1 pick, my favourite game, and my game of the year 2016, goes to none other than Doom. This game is absolutely brilliant all around. Brilliant story that essentially parodies other shooters like this and even survival horror. Brilliant graphics all around, with an excellent atmosphere and an excellent variety of levels, even though that may not appear to be the case at first. The game is so gory. You can tell that they were purposely trying to make this as violent as they possibly could without making the game unrealistically over the top to the point it looks cartoony and couldn't be taken seriously. The shooting is some of the best shooting mechanics I have ever played in a game ever. Seriously, I don't think I can play a campaign on a first-person shooter not made by id ever again. All the guns were fun to use, and all of them felt like they were made for a particular purpose. None of them felt unnecessary, none of them felt like they were unusable or useless. The game felt fair and challenging at the same time, and the difficulty curve was Dark Souls level of perfect. You felt absolutely brilliant being able to progress because of this, as enemies that appear tough at first are no sweat later. The campaign is also a decent length, doesn't get old, never has any boring moments, and the best part is, unlike Dark Souls 3, where not everyone will like the idea of a really hard medieval combat game where everything is out to kill you, this game I can recommend to anybody. Gamers that like easy games will have no trouble with this because the easy difficulty is very easy, so much so a kid can play it. Even though you really shouldn't have your kid play this because this game is insane on the gore. And masochists who really love brutal games have one of the most ridiculously difficulty modes out there. So much so, the first puny enemies are capable of tearing you to shreds in seconds. And holy crap, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is absolutely amazing. Not only does it work on its own, but it's also extremely appropriate for the game and works so well with the gameplay. Yeah, I hear the multiplayer is a bit generic, I never played it, so who cares? Doom was not a multiplayer game in the first place. If you want multiplayer, wait till Quake comes out. And as Nerdcubed once said, you don't say Die Hard is a bad film because the DVC extras are a bit shit. I don't want to seem like a fanboy for quoting a YouTuber on a recent video, but honestly, that quote is too perfect not to use. This is not only a game that met expectations, this was a game that completely destroyed any possible doubts anybody would have with the game. Everyone was very cautious going into this game, but it proved that they still have it. The only reason I would say someone probably wouldn't want to get this game is in case you are around or you are someone who doesn't like over-the-top gore. If you aren't one of those people, why haven't you bought this game yet? Sorry, you have no excuse. The game is incredibly cheap now and has been for a while, and it always seems to be on sale. Even the PS4 version runs at 60 frames per second and has a field of view slider. This game is amazing. Buy it now. Doom is my game of the year 2016. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know when I'm going to next be making a video, and this was more something I just did for fun. Any YouTube videos which aren't mine that I have used in the video have been linked in the description because some of the gameplay was not mine, so I've had to use some on the internet because I haven't been able to capture any gameplay, whether that be because I don't own the game anymore or whether it be because I don't have the capture cards to support it, because it might have been a game I have on the PS4. I think that's about everything. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know when I'm next going to upload a video, but we'll just see how this goes. I only made this for a bit of fun, and see you all later, I suppose.